Welcome, everybody, to the 33 episode of the Boss Key podcast. I am your co host, McQuack306, and I'm joined as always as Mr. WrestleMania, Jesse Fregoso. What's up, JBG?
Yes, you can call me the $1 million man right here, future $1 million man. But yes, this is Jesse right here, ready for the Bosky podcast. How you doing tonight? We're recording this in the evening for the first time.
Yeah.
It's the dark.
We're now
After
doing
dark.
our new schedule, recording during the week and then publishing
Yes.
on Friday at the beginning of the weekend, so you guys can enjoy it for the weekend, or even save it for your Monday morning commute to work or school, whenever you guys listen to this.
And you know what? You brought up a great suggestion when you said earlier, we record it now, have it done by the weekend. People can hear it over the weekend, and they can hear it while they're playing games or while they're doing anything they're doing. So, a lot of the time, if you're in the adulting life, like sometimes for a lot of us, sometimes the weekend you get the most time to play. Sometimes during the week it gets a little hard. You squeeze it in. Like for me personally, the weekend is definitely where I would play a heck of a lot more. And now with the weekend mornings free, guess what I'm gonna do mornings? I'm gonna wake up with a cup of coffee and a game on. That's my pick me up actually. That's actually one of the great little pleasures I have in my head whenever I wake up. Man, it feels good. Like hot coffee. It used to be during the whole pandemic, Friday nights. Okay, guys, we can't go out anywhere during the pandemic time. It's 2020. Having a bit of a drink, a beer or something, and playing a PC game or a PS4 game was actually something I did in evenings. Yeah, I know it's weird, but we have to survive the pandemic somehow. We had to survive the pandemic some way, so that was my weekends when everything was shut down. So I did either drinking during the day or in the evening. Drinking with gaming is always good. It's always chilling for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking the schedule. I think this is going to be a lot more beneficial for us to
Mm-hmm.
be able to just relax on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe play a couple games and talk about them
Mm-hmm.
over the week. But yeah, this is new schedule. Same
Mm-hmm.
show, same hosts with the
Same
most.
time, same channel.
Yeah.
There you go.
With this week's podcast show, we kind of alluded a little bit with our introduction. We kind of wanted to pay respects to a legend, pretty much I think for both of us growing up. Jesse, you want to take it away?
Yes. So, not particularly this week, but the week previously, Scott Hall, or the wrestler who was also known as Scott Hall, but previously known as Razor Ramon as well. His full name, Scott Oliver Hall. He passed away last week due to complications of his hip surgery that he was having. He had like 3 heart attacks in a row.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, it's very interesting because when I read that on Twitter, at first it just mentioned life support, like, oh, he's on life support. So a lot of people already started assuming that he was going to pass away immediately when that happened. But another interesting thing that I saw was, I'm not going to lie, I forgot his real name, but the wrestler originally known as X-Pac, X-Pac was actually tweeting to folks saying, "Stop saying R.I.P. like he hasn't even passed away yet," or it was saying like it's doing it like prematurely or something like that. I don't remember the exact contents, but that was from what I remember hearing. But then a couple of hours later, you would start seeing on Twitter and then Instagram again that he did pass away, and it's one of those very early wrestlers that's very iconic. I grew up more in the Attitude Era, which is a little bit after that. But as a kid, I remember the weekends are hearing of the name Razor Ramon to go along with The Undertaker and Yokozuna and Doink the Clown. Yeah, I remember Doink the Clown. That was
I was scared of Doink.
yo, dude, he was a scary looking clown at the time for wrestling. Um, but Razor Ramon had this persona, this aura, this the bad guy. Like he was very legendary, very iconic in the wrestling scene back then, and he was very like Scarface, and everyone did. He was grimy, he was very cheesy about everything, and he just did whatever he wants, whenever, and but I don't know, it's just something that's magnetic about just the way he interviews. He doesn't say a whole lot, but
Yeah.
like it just works. And his move, the Razor's Edge, was trippy. He would get you on your back, and he would get you on his back, and then raise you up by your arms, and then woof,
and just drop you down.
Oh, that neck! I'm thinking the neck.
He was a great intercontinental champion.
One of the greatest intercontinental champions.
That ladder match, the famous
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, the very first ladder match was awesome.
So so literally what we were thinking when that happened last week, and we weren't recording the Sunday, but I messaged McQuack, dude, let's do a wrestling podcast in honoring him. Let's do something. Let's do it with wrestling to honor his legacy and to go back to our eras of wrestling and what made it iconic. What big memories did you have of Scott Hall or Razor Ramon back in the days?
So we're not that big in terms of age difference, but I didn't have much wrestling, I guess, experience until probably 96, 97. Okay. So I missed Scott Hall until I was much older, and I started watching all the the old episodes and the old pay-per-views. That's when I started watching like, oh, this is an old video of Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, and watching the first ladder match, and watching the famous X-Pac, but he was also known as the 1-2-3 Kid.
His other wrestler name. I was trying to go by his real name, but his back name was 1-2-3 Kid.
Sean Waltman. He
okay.
Because he beat Razor Ramon on Raw, real quick, 1-2-3, and beat him, and that was like a huge like upset. And it's funny because they were best friends. They were part of the clique, and they were best friends behind the scenes, but you wouldn't know it by just watching that episode or that match. And he sold it very well. Both guys did, because 1-2-3 Kid, he's like, oh, raising his hands, he's leaving the ring because he's like, he just beat him, but he didn't want to get beat up again. And Razor Ramon was just like, what happened, what, how? So it was cool. He was able to sell it very well. This episode is pretty much going to be just a dedication for wrestling, and just to pay respects for Scott Hall, 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, one time as Razor Ramon, and then second time inducted for being in the NWO. Which he was
the beginning of the NWO. My God, he was still grimy and the bad guy at that time.
Yeah, which without Scott Hall being in NWO and creating that, I don't think we also would have gotten the Monday Night Wars that we had, with DX being created, which is funny too, because that's Triple H, who was technically also Triple H and Shawn Michaels, which was part of the clique. Yep. So it was both best friends outdoing each other week after week, trying to do something better, and it just that's what we talk about in gaming, where it's like you want these two people or three companies to just throw out their best, because when they throw out their best, we win. So wrestling fans in the 90s won because they had WCW and they had Raw, and it was just explosive. We got all the greats. I feel we got all the greats in the '90s. Even with me just getting
Mm-hmm.
into it,
Mm-hmm.
we got
And
we got The Rock, Stone Cold,
oh man, The Rock,
Undertaker,
Stone
Kane,
Cold, Undertaker, Kane.
Mankind. Uh,
Oh,
the
Cactus Jack, which is
cat.
also Mankind. It's
Yeah,
also Mick Foley.
we could name them a
Um,
Dude Love
we got,
and
we got, we got, we got. And they're all their own different people. Like, no, it's the same guy, but all different people. We had Test, we had Viscera, we had uh, John Cena later down the line. Um, we even had like
and
that wrestling. Remember Scotty Too Hottie and
Scotty Too Hottie.
Funkmaster Flash? Oh
Yeah,
man, Rikishi, who used to be the boy right there
yeah.
too. And I love the Undertaker, both versions of him. I love the Dead Man Inc. and the Ministry, his evil persona.
There's a lot of hate with Undertaker's American Badass
What?
persona that I've witnessed online,
Cool.
and
Yeah.
I cannot believe it because I'm like I liked it as a kid. I'm like okay, whatever. Who was it? Limp Bizkit or who was singing his
Yeah.
uh
No, first was Kid Rock,
Kid
American
Rock?
Badass. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then it was rolling, 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 rolling. And
yeah.
that's afterwards, after that.
But I mean, I liked all his variations, all his character changes, and I think if we didn't get the American Badass, it would have been hard to see Undertaker, the Dead Man, during, the early 2000s when everybody has changed their gimmick or have moved on. So during the '90s, man, like okay, so how did you get into wrestling? Like, what's the introduction? What was like, what happened basically?
Okay.
Young Jesse.
So young Jesse at the time. So as an elementary school kid, a lot of the times I heard a lot of wrestling from my dad would always talk about Hulk Hogan's arms. He would always talk about the arms that he had because back in the day he kept talking about the 24-inch pythons. Like he kept talking about it over and over and then he would talk about the Macho Man Randy Savage and
Oh
and then obviously
yeah.
oh my god, the cream of the crop. Oh my god, how over the top these guys were, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. That was some people might say it's cheesy now, but nah, no way. That's the pinnacle
It's
right
all
there. That was
theatrics, man. It's
Sergeant
all character.
Sergeant Slaughter and Jake the Snake Roberts and oh my god. So this is the time, at least I thought, was when all the characters came out. As a kid, I would watch wrestling. I believe it used to be on Saturdays. It used to be like Saturdays they would have it. Um, Saturdays, and then of course there was I don't know when Monday Night Raw started. I'm not sure when it began, but I remember seeing it on weekends, and I would hear about wrestling a lot. But it wasn't until my teenage years that I started getting into wrestling more because one of my really good friends at the time, Michael, was also into wrestling a lot, and we watched a lot of the old videos with him. Like we would rent I would rent videos from Dina Video of
Damn.
old WrestleManias, like
That's
old
right.
WrestleMania,
That's where I got him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, that's where you get all the old videos because they used to be on cassette,
Mhm.
and you would wait for things to come out, and then I would watch the current era, and oh my gosh, I got into wrestling. If I can pinpoint a time in the history of what wrestling was going on, Stone Cold was hurt because he just got ran over by a car, and he Stone Cold just got ran over by a car, and then he was like out for a while.
Mhm.
So there was no Stone Cold, but The Rock was there, I believe, and so from 2000 and on was when I started liking wrestling a lot more. So I would look at I would be The Rock was my wrestler of choice. I know a lot of people know Dwayne The Rock Johnson as his what he is now, the actor, movie star, and everything. No, no, no. When I see him as the wrestler. That's the way I remember him the most. That's his character, The Rock, is just the best of all times. It doesn't matter when all this stuff and like all his he was the man that he just kept you glued on your TV the entire time, like no matter what happened. And at that time, I would watch, and then when Stone Cold came back, and then And then you found out it was Rikishi that was in the car, and then
did it for the Rock.
I know, right? And then that's what he says.
I did
and
it
then
for the Rock.
and then that's a moment of Rikishi that I didn't like, because then he turned his theme song into "I'm a bad man." Dun, 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 the one where he became like the villain Rikishi. I didn't like the villain Rikishi. I liked the one where he would put on the sunglasses and he gets like all enamored back in the day. Dude, I remember dancing. Rikishi was the man. Okay, no one can watch me do this, but I'm telling you, he used to do the dance with the whole group, man. Rikishi was dude, and he used to have the sidekick that was the best, and then we know the butt slam. We already know that move. The other finishing move, the stinky face. We know that move happens, but usually I stayed from there. That's when I started getting pay-per-views. I remember having pay-per-views of Armageddon 2001. I was really excited, and my mom was saying, "Why the heck are we paying for a wrestling event? Like, what do you mean you have to pay extra?" Because that's what we learned about pay-per-view. we had to learn how to get it and how to order it, and I forget how much it was, but she's all like, "All right," and then you can have the friends over to watch it.
It was like 40, 50 bucks. It was like 40-50 bucks, yeah.
But then I also did love Stone Cold Steve Austin when he came back as well, and I saw some older Stone Cold videos. Dude, oh my God, I will also love Stone Cold for all time. Like, these are the era that I grew up with, again, like I said, but this is also the era that I love the most, because after the Invasion arc, I started not watching as much anymore. So I didn't get too much into the John Cena era or too much of it afterwards. Like, I do remember I was into when Batista was coming in, when Batista was there, and then Randy Orton was there as well. But one of the things, we all love wrestling so much, we used to do wrestling we used to do it in the backyard, and we used to fake moves and fake stunners and do sharpshooters and do the rock bottoms, much to the dismay of our parents, thinking we're going to get killed here, like doing all this stuff. But I remember the front yards and the backyards it was a spectacle. So it didn't hold on. I mean, now, like, if I get invited to see like a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, those are usually the two biggest events going on right now, if you're not a super wrestling fan still, but Royal Rumble as well. But if people didn't invite me to see any of those, I'll still see them all the time. But there was a part of my life that wrestling was a huge part, and I love it for it. And that's why I always love WWE. Well, was WWF, and then World Wildlife Foundation came in and took off my F. But
good job.
WWE. Thanks a lot. But it's okay. WWE is something that I will hold. I'll always be looking at. I'll always try to know wrestlers' names, remember wrestlers' names, and is it something that I will watch if it's on? Yeah, I'll still see it. I will definitely still see it from time and time again. Yeah. What about you, man? I know I had a lot of wrestling talk there, but I know you're a bigger wrestling fan. I see you tweet a lot of wrestling pics.
Yeah, I mean, all my gifts are Roman Reigns.
Is that your favorite wrestler, man?
No. I don't even think he's top 5, to be honest. I just like his gifts. I just like his reactions, because there's like a reaction for everything I want to like just display. And I just enjoy it. But wrestling, I know I was into wrestling when I was much younger, when I was like 4 or 5. I remember having the pink shades of Bret Hart. And they weren't mine.
Hitman.
Yeah, they weren't mine. They were my uncle's, but I take them from him because at the time I think he was like 12 or 13, and I was 5. So
yeah,
me, I want to wear this shades. I want to be the kid going Bret. And so I remember seeing a little bit, and then like just, I guess, stopped watching it. It just went away. I don't remember wrestling at all until like around 99. I was watching Home Improvement, and really awesome. Yeah, really awesome show. And I was watching it. My dad comes home, and he comes home from like a 12-hour shift from work. All he wants to do is relax and watch his stuff. Me as a little booger kid wants to watch Home Improvement. My dad doesn't want to watch that, and so he changes the channel, and I get mad, and I'm like, "Oh, why you change it? I'm watching it." And he's just like, "We're gonna watch what I want to watch." And
Ooh.
he puts on Raw, and
Ooh.
I see,
Monday Night Raw.
yeah, and I'm watching, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I'm hooked. I start
Done.
I start seeing. I don't even remember who it was that I saw. It could have been Stone Cold. It could have been The Rock or Mankind. But I was just glued. I was just like instantly like, "Who's that? Who's that?" And
Mhm.
my dad. I mean, he's getting back. He just changed the channel. He just looked into it, and he's like, "I don't know. Just keep watching." And there it was, and uh, that was it. That's all that was needed for me to become a wrestling fan, and
Man.
it just progressed from there. And I started seeing every show, never missed it, and then to the point of the same thing. Birthdays came around. I want a pay-per-view. I want Armageddon, and I would get mad too because
Nice.
I'd get mad too because of my birthday's in December. So I got Armageddon exactly on my birthday too. I got Armageddon, the one with the 6-man Hell in the Cell with Rikishi
Ooh.
and
Okay.
Undertaker and that. But I would always get mad. I'm like, man, it's not fair. My sister's birthday is in April, so she automatically gets WrestleMania.
Dude, wait, but your sister didn't want to watch WrestleMania, huh?
She actually would watch it. She would actually. I mean, it was nowhere to the degree where I was at in terms of like attention, but she would watch it too, and she'd like it. But I watched wrestling for years, man, like straight. Like it's not until much recent, like maybe in the last 3 years, where it kind of started tapering off for me. But I still watch it, the main events. I still watch Royal Rumbles, the WrestleManias, the SummerSlams, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Those are like the main ones. But growing up, still, yeah, watching every single episode, and I remember, my mom would be telling me, you gotta go to bed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold on. Like it's almost done. It's almost done. This is the last match, and
Mhm.
it's 9 o'clock on a Monday, and I'm seeing Kurt Angle roll up in a milk truck and spray everybody in the ring with milk, a la Stone Cold.
Dude. That
And
is the classic, dude. Kurt Angle, dude.
Kurt Angle is my favorite to this day.
Kurt Angle's a wrestler?
Till this day, Kurt Angle is my favorite because I have so much like
What?
just watching him as a kid and being like, yeah, this guy's a good guy, but like he doesn't get rocked like the other guys. And this dude could do comedy, he could be serious,
Mhm.
he could do tag team, he could do singles, he could do 6-man. He did it all. This guy could rest. He was a legitimate wrestler, so already he was up there for me in terms of like, oh, who would you bet money on? Well, I'm gonna go on with the guy who actually has gold medal, who actually
Mhm.
won at the Olympics. And I just like Kurt Angle. Every single time I would hear his music, and he'd come in. I mean, nowhere near hyped as if I heard Glass Shattering, or anything like that. But Kurt Angle, for me, always had like really good matches. Like he was always up there. Um, so yeah, I mean,
Oh, it's
I think I
oh,
think
it's true.
I,
It's true. It's true.
it's damn true. Uh, I think I surprised a lot because people always say like, oh, Undertaker or Stone Cold or the main ones, but I come out with, oh, Kurt Angle. Like I always get that reaction, Kurt Angle, really?
Oh,
I'm
but you
like,
know what? All
and
right.
I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, like he did a lot in the short time that he was in WWE.
Mhm.
He was there for like, I want to say 6 years. He did a lot within that time, and raised up a lot of
Yeah.
people, including John Cena.
Dude, I'm gonna admit that Kurt Angle did have one of the dopest theme songs in all of the entries. He did, and I did like the ankle lock a lot because that looked like it would be very painful.
My brother
The
hated
ankle
it.
lock is really he didn't like ankle lock. Dude?
No, because I would get it on him.
Oh, okay, that's why. And then, so previously before that, he had the Olympic Slam. That was his more signature move then, and then he switched to the ankle lock. But I will say one thing though, the most memorable, one of the more memorable matches too is actually a Kurt Angle match. It was actually Unforgiven 2001
I know.
when he won that title back from the betrayer Stone Cold Steve Austin at the time, because he was part of the WCW, ECW, the other side.
Yeah.
And I remember everyone came out and celebrated with him when he won that title. Like,
that's the one where he had the booger in his nose, right?
Yeah, dude. Like, he doesn't matter. He won. He was a WWE champion at the time, and he. So you know what? Okay. So yeah. So Kurt Angle's not the top of like my personal list, but no, he was an amazing character and concept at the time, and like, dude, it just worked. And you're right, he is the only one that I knew of that actually won gold medals. He's the only one that actually won wrestling, with a broken neck, by the way. He had a broken neck when he did that. Broken freaking neck. But yeah, I think for both of us, we agree that the Attitude Era and on was the era we liked wrestling a lot.
Yeah.
Also, lamest wrestler I thought was the Hurricane.
Gregory Helms.
Here comes Hurricane. Oh.
No, I think the weakest was Spike Dudley.
What? Really?
Yeah, little Spike Dudley? I mean, he could get hit. That's what I like seeing, because I remember the first time I saw Brock Lesnar, and this dude just like slammed him onto the mat like 3 times, and I was like, this dude's dead. He's dead.
He's dead. Like, get out. I also thought the weirdest one was that 3-man group called Right to Censor. Do you remember that group?
Yeah, of course, with Ivory and Steven.
They used to wear the suits, and like, oh my god, I was like, really?
The sound was like, it was like the alarms.
Yeah, it was like the alarm and stuff when they came in. I was like, all right, they're coming in, the censor group. They might exist more often nowadays compared to back then, but but who knows? Like, Right to Censor was like one of those weirder ones. But again, The Rock to me was just like the final boss of a lot of things. Like, I think he's a boss there. So yeah,
I really like the invasion angle. I wish it was done better. In terms of more, I think we really needed guys like Sting and Goldberg
right
in the
they
mix.
Came in later. Yeah, they came in later on, not immediately.
Yeah, because it seems like, and I think they even could tell, like WWE could tell that, oh, it's kind of one-sided. That's why they had the whole Stone Cold switch. And it was too one-sided. It was like, well, who was the best wrestler from the WCW, ECW side at the time during the invasion angle, which would have been Booker T, since he was champion. And who else? Like,
five-time WCW champion.
Yeah, like, who else was there? Like, they were missing so many key people. Scott Steiner. They were missing. Like we said, Goldberg and Sting. I think if they would have joined at that time, I think it would have been a huge.
Was Diamond Dallas Page part of the initial one, or did he come later too?
He was there too.
He was part of the initial. Okay,
so he'd probably be up there, DDP and Booker T, but that was it. And who were they up against? They were up against the Brothers of Destruction. They were up against Kurt Angle, Stone Cold. They could have even put The Rock if The Rock wasn't part of another angle. But it was just stacked. and I really loved the invasion angle because it was like as a kid, who didn't really watch WCW, I was like,
Hmm.
who are these guys? Why are they beating up my guys? And
Right?
it was just a cool gimmick thing about like, oh, I was there, watching it when they said, oh, a Vince McMahon signed the paperwork, or a McMahon signed the paperwork, but it wasn't Vince. It was a different McMahon. It was Shane
Right?
McMahon. It was
Oh,
so weird.
that's legit. That where they had the video on video from WWE Raw, and then WCW Monday Night Nitro. He's over there, and like, oh yeah, I now own WCW. Like, his son swooped it under him. A clever way of saying that WWE bought everything, that purchased
Yeah,
everything.
it was
But
it was a cool
I
angle,
liked it.
and I wanted it to go even further, but you could only do so much for so amount of time.
Mm.
But really love the angle. I think it's the best pop that Stone Cold ever got was when he was like struggling. Do I fight? Do I not fight? And then he just shows up, and like the crowd is like going wild when they hear his music, and he just starts, how he struts down the ring talking trash, and then just pretty much beats up everybody with stunners. And
Mhm.
it was a cool moment, but I just wish it lasted and was probably better.
Mhm. Ah, the Texas rattlesnake. The base that Superman of wrestlers right there, man. The top of the prime right there.
So you say you didn't really watch it after what, like 2001, 2002?
Yeah, like a little bit more past the line. Didn't watch too much afterwards, so didn't get too into, like I said earlier, the John Cena eras or any of the eras beyond that. I would hear it from news here and there of like certain wrestlers' final match, and then I remember The Rock got regulated to be like WrestleMania only every
Mm.
once in a while until his acting career just took off more. Because I remember they would just have him just to be like a WrestleMania character. Um, what are the besides the Kurt Angle match that I said a second ago? The other memorable match for me too was The Rock versus Hulk. No, it was The Rock versus Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
It
Hollywood
was yeah,
Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Hollywood Hogan versus The Rock at during WrestleMania. I believe it was WrestleMania 17.
Yeah, I
Let
think
me
it was
double check
7.
that.
I think it was 17 as
Yeah.
well. I love that one.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was a good you know past versus present type of thing.
Yep. And that's when and oh wait.
Or was
Sorry,
it
no.
eighteen?
Wrong one. It was 18. Sorry, WrestleMania 17 is The Rock versus Stone Cold because Stone Cold was back.
Okay.
That was Stone Cold coming back. Oh, well, I'm pulling up all my stuff because there's a lot. Because I remember the McMahons were involved a lot with that one. But let me see. Let me just double check the next WrestleMania here. Yeah, pardon me. It was X8. Pardon me, X8. It was that was Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at the time.
Yeah, that was a good match. That's when we still had Skinny Rock. Rock
Mm-hmm.
wasn't all jacked out.
Yep.
But that was a good match too. Um, but there was actually a lot that still happened during the 2000s past the Attitude Era, which became the Ruthless Aggression Era, started by John Cena. A lot of people hate on John Cena. I don't. I think he actually did a lot for the company because I don't think anybody else stepped up like he did. Um, they like to, a lot of people like to say the five moves of doom because that's all John Cena had. But really, I mean, who else was main eventing pay-per-views and bringing those crowds in and having those matches, because he had some incredible matches. I remember watching New Year's, I think it was called New Year's Resolution, and it was like the Elimination Chamber match, and I think he even started it, and it was like him and Kurt Angle was in there, Shawn Michaels, Carlitos, if you know any of these, Chris Masters, and I forgot the other one. I think it was Chris Jericho. I'm not entirely
There's one. There's one I know. Chris Jericho. There's one.
But like I remember that match where Kurt Angle finally came out of his pod and he was just wrecking everybody, suplex, suplex, suplex before Suplex City with Brock Lesnar, but he was just like getting everybody until he had John Cena by the ankle lock, and it looked like he was about to tap, and Shawn Michaels out of nowhere just sweet chin music and just one hit and he's out. And I was so mad. I'm like, really? That's how he goes out? Everybody's on the floor and he gets out like that. But yeah, that's when it started with like because after the match ended, John Cena wins. He's Superman. And he beat everybody. He's a bloody mess. And Vince McMahon comes out and he's like, congratulations, John Cena, for winning. But the show's not over. Somebody wants to cash in their Money in the Bank contract, and it was Edge. And that was the first time we had seen the Money in the Bank used that way. Nobody knew how it was going to use. Like, oh, do you just use it and say, oh, I'll challenge you? No, Edge basically showed up and said, yeah, I'm going to challenge John Cena for a title match right now. And yeah, after 2 spears, he pinned John Cena and became a champion. And that was big because I was like, that's how you use it? That's so crazy. That changes the entire game, or at least the entire year. Because whoever wins, the Money in the Bank contract, they can pretty much use it whenever they want. It could be right before a title match. It could be right before a match. And the guy's like on the floor and you activate it. You essentially cash it in.
Really? Yeah. Anytime. And literally anytime.
It's happened before where somebody wins it that night of, and then the champion goes through a match, either wins or loses, but then that person cashes it in. That happened recently, maybe like 5-6 years ago, with Dean Ambrose. I don't know if you know Dean Ambrose. Still much newer, but he's now on AEW. As Jon Moxley.
So AEW is just another subsection of WWE, right?
No,
it's different.
AEW is the competitor. They are a completely...
So there is a competitor to WWE. I thought they just got everything. No, it's a competitor.
AEW started, I want to say, like 3-4 years ago, proper.
Wow, really new.
It started with, I don't know if you know Cody Rhodes.
No, not off the top of my head.
Dusty Rhodes' son. It started off with him. The Young Bucks, I highly doubt you know who they are. And I know you know this one, Chris Jericho.
Okay, yes, I do know Chris Jericho.
Yeah, so he helped. All of them helped start up AEW, and now it's actually pretty big. They have a lot of the older talent from WWE, like Big Show is now on AEW.
I do know the Big Show. that was another classic wrestler from back in the days. Anyways, yes, you have Big Show.
Yeah, so now this is like an entirely new competitor to WWE, which I haven't been able to see too many matches, but from what I've seen so far, CM Punk is in there. I don't know if you know CM Punk.
I do know CM Punk.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I heard he had a super long title defense, like for a while.
Yeah.
True? Yeah.
I don't know about on AEW, but in WWE.
No, in WWE he had a huge title defense.
He had it for a while, but that's their main competition right now. I don't know if it's affected WWE so much, but that's pretty much where we're at with wrestling today. But I know I went through a huge history, but
we went through a lot of wrestling. We went through a lot of wrestling to start this episode.
That's just the wrestling, but we also enjoyed, as much as watching wrestling and wrestling in real life and causing severe pain to children. What memories do you have of wrestling video games?
Ooh, okay. So
because there's a lot.
There's a ton of wrestling video games. So the wrestling video games actually started more for me. So how I mentioned that the Attitude Era was where I began watching wrestling more. That's where I started delving into more wrestling video games. So I did miss out on any Super Nintendo, NES classic wrestling games, but definitely on the Nintendo 64, uh, there was a string of games that came out on N64, and I just learned this today as doing research and everything for the video that the reason why I love all these games is they're all developed by a certain grappling system. Like the company itself is called the AKI Corporation. The publishers of the game, for most of them, was THQ.
Yeah.
But some of the wrestling video games that I did love the most back then, the first one that I played on it was WCW NWO Revenge.
Okay.
So that one was how that system started for me. They had a very unique grappling system that I liked a lot, where you would press A to do a light grab, and then you can do certain moves there. Or you would hold A, and you would do the super grab, which they do like a little arm flip, and then they do like they do the arm flip, and then they grab you, and then you can do more special moves, pile drivers, power bombs, suplexes, or your finishing move. And something about that grappling system itself was great. So WCW NWO Revenge started it off for me. But again, I didn't know much of the wrestlers' names. Because I didn't watch a lot of WCW. That's the only way I knew about the WCW events, because I saw the events on the game. So the game that I definitely loved the most, I moved up to WrestleMania 2000, but the one that perfected this whole system back then was WWF No Mercy. That is the wrestling game of wrestling games.
I think a lot of people love No Mercy.
All that grappling system that I just said, everything that I just said, it was perfect. It was such a good game. It was so it wasn't super hard, but it wasn't super easy either. You could still get a little lost doing it. But the punches, the leg drops, the through the ropes, the running system. I remember throwing people to the ropes and either getting underneath or doing your clothesline. But the system itself, AKI Corporation came out with such an awesome grappling system that it had me hooked for hours. I played that game for so long, and No Mercy had the biggest roster out of all of them at that time. It was 65 different wrestlers that was on it from all the Attitude Era that we just talked about. So it didn't have anything in relation to, again, the Invasion Era, because the Invasion Era didn't happen by the time this game came out. But it had The Undertaker, it had Stone Cold, it had The Rock, it had everyone from the Attitude Era that I fell in love with them, and it just completely worked out. The single player was awesome. You can have your own created character, or you could pick any of the other characters if you want to be, again, Stone Cold, if you want to be Undertaker, Kane. I prefer Kane before he can speak. Before and after he spoke is okay, whatever. I liked him better when he barely spoke. But for me, WWF No Mercy, top wrestling game of all time.
Yeah.
One.
I love WWF No Mercy. That even I still remember to this day the facial capture of each of them, and you can clearly tell which one was The Rock just because the eyebrow was just raised, so cartoony looking. But
yep.
It was one of those it can never look any better. This is where we're gonna be at. This looks so real. And then I remember, putting it on for the first time, and then even having the intros of the wrestlers when they would come out. It felt like the show. It felt like, and they even had their own animation, even though a lot of them ran the same way, the Terminator style running.
They did.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was arcadey. you can tell which one, even with N64. Not to say that, yeah, N64 had bad graphics. It's just was super limited for 3D capability. You can tell which one was which. You can tell the wrestlers, even though they try to put Rakishi's name on him. It's still pixelated, but you can tell that was Rakishi. You can tell that that's what they were going for. So I love that they had, like you said, so many wrestlers in one game, including being able to create your own character,
Yep.
and it just it was like jam packed. It had so much stuff
Mhm.
in there, and then like the wrestling moves. I think that was the first time I saw that you could have a ladder match or something like that, and like actually have physics to it. Like you
Like
can
it
actually
had the Hell
knock
in the
it down.
Cell, it had all those
Yeah,
matches.
you can actually knock down the ladder while somebody was on there. So, uh, really loved No Mercy. That one was one of my earliest ones. I never owned it. I had it, with my neighbor or where I would play or at a friend's house. That's what the one that I did have though was WrestleMania 2000.
Okay, that was the one right before that one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the one that I had, and I love that one too. I think that's probably like my second most played wrestling game.
Yeah.
Was 2000, just because,
Mhm.
again, more wrestling, same, I guess, animations in a way.
Mhm.
It was just that they added more stuff to it.
Telling you, man. I'm telling you, AKI Corporation is the one you have to thank for that. However, it played the system that it had, the simple grapple with being able to do so many moves from that grapple. Because I remember you would press the grapple button, and then you would press up or down or left or right, and you would have whatever combination of move you had. Like there was, you could do so many things that it was like, dude, you can. It's hard to, you can go through the whole list and get everything. You can get through all the moves, but there was just so much to go through. And sometimes you do the same one a couple times, but when you probably do the same one a couple times just to bring them down, and then you bring their level down, and then when you get that special meter up, and then you do the taunt, like special, and then the special came out, and then that's when you can do the stunner or choke slam or whatever your big bad move was.
Yeah, and then moving forward, like they had the PlayStation One games, which I didn't really play much.
Mm-hmm.
Of like I think it was, I don't even know, it was like SmackDown Know Your Role or something like that. And then they went on with Here Comes the Pain and Here Comes the Pain 2 with Brock Lesnar.
SmackDown had a lot of games.
Yeah, but I didn't really go back into wrestling games until the PS2 era with the SmackDown versus Raw when they started doing that line,
Mm-hmm.
which I felt was like the one game that I actually did play the most, just because um, at the time my brother was old enough now to play these video games. He was like 6 or 7, so he understood pretty much the mechanics of what to do and stuff like that. And we we created our characters every single time we would get a SmackDown versus Raw game. We created our characters Venom and Carnage. It was always Venom and Carnage, and
Nice.
it was just these dudes called
Mhm.
Venom and Carnage, and my brother and I, we wanted to do a Brothers of Destruction type of thing, and
Mhm.
basically we had like Goku hair with either black or red, depending
Of
on,
course.
of course, on who you were, and then we kind of did like a mixture of John Cena
Nice.
with Batista. So Batista had like a tattoo on his back of a dragon. So we had dragons black or red, and then we had shorts black or jorts black or
Mhm.
red. So it was just those type of stuff. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make mine more like high flyer. I'm gonna be like the guy who goes to the top rope like Jeff Hardy. That was one of his favorites."
Oh,
And I'm
there we
like,
go.
"Well, I'm gonna do mine like Batista. I'm gonna be the powerhouse kind of guy." So
Powerball man.
yeah, so my character had a power bomb, the Batista bomb. So
I
it
remember that
was cool
movie.
playing
Batista
those.
Ball.
It was
Hmm.
cool playing those, and that was the first time that I actually went a little bit past just the wrestling game, and started doing like the, I don't know if you ever played manager mode.
I never played manager mode.
Yeah, basically trying to create the best brand possible. If you want it to be SmackDown or Raw, you
Mm.
did like your own draft, and then you pick a character or you pick a wrestler, and the computer would pick the next best wrestler. So if I were to pick Undertaker, the computer would automatically pick Stone Cold. So it was
Mm.
kind of like always trying to compete, and I played that for a bit, but always went back to just wrestling with my brother.
Here we go. Nice. Like, dude, that series actually just not only just evolved into started with SmackDown, SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, SmackDown the next one just Bring It, and then Shut Your Mouth, and then Here Comes the Pain, like you said. It wasn't until 2004 when then it became SmackDown versus Raw. Then it worked its way up, and then they basically just added it by year now. Now they just made it a yearly release.
Yeah.
So now it became all the way to 2010. Then starting 2011, excuse me, starting 2012, then they made it into the yearly series. Oh, and then so basically it became like a Madden. It ended up becoming a Madden series like itself. It would come out every year.
Basically, but they did
Mm.
take a hiatus. I think the last one they did was WWE 18, which was really bad. It was just
Really?
it was horrible. They switched developers, and it was just really bad. They went back to the drawing board, and now we have WWE 2022.
It's
Or
2022 right now. Yeah.
yeah,
There's
that's
it has I believe that's Rey Mysterio in the front of that one.
yeah. So it's
Yeah.
centered around Rey Mysterio, and then you can play his, like, I guess, story mode. And I'm hearing a lot of good things about this one. I'm hearing that this one is greatly improved and is actually could be one of the best wrestling games ever made.
There you go.
That's a lot to say, given how we talked about WWF No Mercy and all the other games that came from wrestling.
There you go. And there's a lot of other great wrestling games that did come out too that didn't have the WWE license or WWF besides WCW as well. One that I never played, but I heard a lot of people do talk about is Simpsons Wrestling.
Yeah, I heard that one was good too.
I heard that one was good. Never played it myself. There's also some different wrestling games like backyard wrestling. I remember that was a thing at one point
Yeah.
where they just went like, oh, the most extreme. Like that was like one of the first times I saw well they did it during wrestling because I remember Cactus Jack used to do it too, but they tried to really really throw in the face. There's barbed wire here, or there's here, and they slam a lot in doing people's backyards. I think they got in trouble for that or something because it looked like they were doing it in backyards. Um, yeah, that doesn't seem very very great to do at the time. But hey, you can love wrestling so much, you just do your own thing. And I remember backyard wrestling. Well, it got so popular they made a video game out of it. So yeah, maybe it was successful in a way.
Yeah.
But the wrestling game that I love, besides WWE No Mercy, but another one that I played a lot of, played a little bit more than No Mercy because I don't know, it just captivated me. I know I said AKI again, but they made up with this engine as well. But this time when they went with EA, oh my god, the Def Jam games,
Oh
Def
yeah.
Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York. Oh my goodness, whoa, that blew like my mind of the classic hip hop that we love, Luda and Method Man, and oh my god, just for the music alone, you get this game too. It's one of those licensed. I guess you can call it a licensed game because there's a lot of licensed music because from artists. But they used the images of Ludacris and DMX, Scarface, and Busta Rhymes, and all these hip hop artists, but they were wrestling. Dude,
Yeah.
this is amazing. I loved it. I loved every second of it
We
because
need a
I
new
loved.
one.
Right. Well, they did come out with. I never played the one that's called Icon. There was one
Oh yeah,
called
Def
Icon.
Jam Icon. I remember that one.
I never played that one. But I heard it was going downhill from there. But I played Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York. I owned both of those games, and I would have the friends over in the house playing those games all the time. Same type of grappling system, same type of like punching and kicking mechanics that it had. But the thing I loved about Def Jam was the way matches finish. You didn't sometimes usually go through a pinning motion. Sometimes if you get them in the final when you get them with your final special move, which is called the Blaze move. It's like the Blaze move is what it's called. It's usually some kind of hard hitting combination or a hard hitting kick in the face after like a huge jump or something. And it had that ooh, the KO move. You were out like a light. And damn, that just made it like feel 10 times harder. Oh my god. And it still counts as a wrestling game because it's not a fighting game. It's not a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat. No, there was grappling and pinning and submissions still in this game. You still had all the things that were considered wrestling, but it had that extra crunch. So besides the hip hop artist and besides those finishing moves, it was a great and fun as heck game. I remember Vendetta definitely focused more on the wrestling aspect. Like all the clubs and all the venues were like rings, so you had more of the ring venue of bouncing off the top ropes and going off the top ropes. And then I remember Fight for New York. Well, first off, you got to select your style of fighting now. So now you can be like a kickboxing style or wrestling style or street fighting style. Each have their own benefits and disadvantages. And in Fight for New York, that one had definitely more of the street fighting mechanic along with the wrestling. So now there were actually like solid walls that you're gonna slam your opponent's head on, or there's a bunch of people there, they push you back in, and you know, like how people gather around a fight and they watch a fight, and then if they hit the edge of the people of the fight, they push them back in, or
Yeah.
they just do that. So that was the difference between Vendetta, which is more looked like the wrestling type, and then Fight for New York looked more of like the street fight type. But oh, the finishing moves was just the cream on top. The way you handled the opponents in the end and everything. And yet, man, did I love playing as DMX and Method Man and Snoop Dogg and like all these rappers? Ice-T? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And from the soundtrack, just like a lot of people like playing Tony Hawk games for their soundtrack, I love playing this game for its soundtrack. This had like some of the best rap and hip hop from the early 2000s, the era that we grew up in. There was a lot of the early stuff from there, and man, such good music. So for me, Def Jam was like, if I had to put like the top wrestling game, damn, those two games in the series are just my best ones. Did you get a lot of experience with Def Jam?
Not so much with Def Jam. I did play. I think it was Fight for New York that I
Okay,
played.
yeah, the second one.
Yeah, that's the one with the cover that it's like dark and it's like someone like looming over the city, like kind of orange.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the one I played at a friend's house that had it. But I didn't really play many hours of that game, but I did play that one specific one, and it was pretty cool. I like the music surrounding it, and like, you know, rappers at the time. That's what I also listened to, hip hop and rap. So it was like kind of like really cool. But thinking back on it, like I would love to see something even like just like it might be the most expensive licensed game now, but you know, it'd be pretty cool to see certain people in there fight again. I don't know. It's just one of those celebrity deathmatch type of things.
Oh, do you remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yes.
That was a bomb, dude. Celebrity Deathmatch was the dope, dude. MTV in its heyday. Let's say MTV in its heyday. Celebrity Deathmatch. Oh my god, so much good stuff from MTV.
There's a game that recently got announced. It's an indie game called WrestleQuest. That I'm actually hyped for. It's like basically it's a wrestling RPG, and it has Macho Man in there. Really,
wrestling RPG.
Exactly.
Here we go.
Exactly. It's a turn-based wrestling RPG.
Oh,
Um,
turn
yeah,
based. Oh,
it's turn based.
say no more.
So
That's
I'm
already
excited for this. I think they announced it like a week ago. From us recording this like a week, 2 weeks ago. But
Mhm.
as soon as I saw it, I'm like, this is where I'm at. This is the type of game that I want. Give me RPG and wrestling.
What was the name of the game? What was the name of the game one more time?
Wrestle Quest.
Wrestle Quest. All right, I'm gonna look that up, man. Wrestle Quest.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
developer Mega Cat Studios. Um, this one should be really cool. I liked what I saw so far.
Wrestle Quest. Okay. Oh, it's on PC. It's gonna be on all the systems. Oh, you're right. It has like the little Macho Man Randy Savage on top. I know Guacamelee doesn't count as a wrestling game, but I do love Melee.
I do love Guacamelee as well.
That's I know it's not, but it brings out the luchador lifestyle from back then. And hey, you do suplexes, you do moves, but no, it's a Castlevania platformer. Wow, I'm looking at the game right now. It looks pretty dope, and it's all like pixelated. That's awesome. Oh my goodness, you get all the legends. You get to face off against Andre the Giant. Okay, all right, you're piquing my interest, WrestleQuest. Let's see when this comes out. We'll find out later when that comes out. Um, but wrestling, I think, is something that's going to live for forever and ever and ever. I don't see it going away anytime soon, whether it's stayed popular or hasn't stayed as popular. It's going to continue on. It'll still be there. Everyone needs a little wrestling in their life.
Yeah, I think even for me, who's kind of like fell off the weekly watch, I still get entertained and I still enjoy watching old videos, but also watching like the new pay per views of Royal Rumble, of who's gonna come in next, and those surprise
Yeah.
entrances and WrestleManias and stuff like that.
Do you remember how they handled how did they handle because I didn't watch it too much during the pandemic. How did they handle it during the pandemic? Did they still have the event but just no people in the crowds?
No, they have people in the crowds now, but
Like what about like
before during
when the
during
pandemic was
COVID,
happening?
they didn't. It was weird, and I think that also lent to why I stopped watching it. Um, they would have like they were in like a small. They were in the development area where they were, talent would practice and stuff like that, and up and coming wrestlers would go there to practice their moves. uh, they basically made that into the stage or the arena, and they would be there
Uh,
every week, and
Virtual.
and it was kind of like you could. It's weird, man. It's one thing that you don't think of when watching wrestling is how much the fan interaction plays with the match. And when you hear, the grunts, the and you hear the mats being slammed, but you hear no interaction, it's kind of weird. It's kind of
Uh,
it's kind of like if you watch an action movie with no music.
oh, like you just hear all the fights and that's it. You just hear
Yeah,
like.
like imagine watching James Bond without hearing dun dun dun. Like it's just like it's missing something, and the fans actually do a lot for the atmosphere of a match. So no, at the beginning of the pandemic, I mean, good on them for trying, because what else are they gonna do? You know,
Nothing, man.
uh,
That was their bread. That was their bread and butter. That was their income, man. So they have
yeah,
to make wrestling work somehow. And they were gonna lose. They lost a lot of money too at the time. They had to cancel all future events, refund the tickets, and
yeah.
like, oh,
So that's how
oh
they
man,
that's how they did it, and then they moved up to having I think it was still the same area, but now that they put like I don't know how many TV monitors uh, to replace the fans, and basically you can I don't know how you could do it, but you could basically uh, stream like yourself, your face onto
Mhm.
the TV, and you'd show up on the pay per view. Like it
Wow.
just be a bunch of screens with fans' faces on there.
Okay.
So that's what they did until now. Recently, I think they're about 3 months in now, 3 or 4 months in, where people are now in the stadiums and stuff like that, which makes it a lot better.
Yeah. I think just like with most other sports and everything, the fans do make it what it is. It's huge. It's really hard to do without any type of fans or anything. So yeah, I agree, man. Good thing it's back.
And with that, it is now our final segment of the show. It is the boss pick of the week. This week we got Jesse's pick. Jesse, what do you got for us?
All right. So to keep it in along the lines with our man Razor Ramon, the bad guy. To keep it along with the bad guy, I didn't really have a great wrestling opponent to give my boss pick of the week because usually a lot of the times with wrestling games, it's usually just continuing on until you fight like the final wrestler, which could be whoever it is or however it was set up at the time. So I decided to go with another bad guy from a fighting game franchise. Hey, guess what? Fighting games have grapplers too. If you remember, Zangief is a wrestler. Zangief is the wrestling representative of the games at the time. So I actually decided to go with one of the most original bad guys of all time in fighting games, and that is M. Bison, or Master Bison, as people would know. So M. Bison has appeared in almost every single Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 1. Excuse me, no, Street Fighter 2. Sorry, everyone keeps confusing Street Fighter 2 as Street Fighter 1 because not that many people remember Street Fighter 1 too much, but Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter Alpha series, Street Fighter 5, not in 3 because it's way into the future, but M. Bison is the hat-wearing from Thailand, but the psycho-power-driven villain of Shadowloo, the entire villain organization of the Street Fighter series. Portrayed by Raul Julia, one of his final roles in movies ever. If you remember the Street Fighter movie, game over. But hey, man, you know what? I give him props because he hammed it up, and he literally just gives like the best line of like the whole movie. The day that I murdered your family, for me it was Tuesday.
Damn.
Oh, God, savage at the time. But
he knew how to deliver it.
Right, dude, he made it work. He made it work. Now in the animated movies, he is a lot better. He's portrayed as the more bigger, imposing villain that he actually is. The worst boss fight of his, for me, has to go to his fight in what's known as Street Fighter Alpha 3, which is one of the Alpha games which predates all the Street Fighters. That's why it's called Alpha in the name. But Street Fighter Alpha 3 is also known as Final Bison, and has the best theme song of any boss that I love. I bump it in the gym. I bump it anywhere. Brave or the Grave. Just look that up. The best boss theme ever. Like for me, like, whoa. If I say that and everyone call me the encyclopedia of music, but I'm saying like ever. Like, dude, his final theme was great. He was just more powerful than usual. Can teleport everywhere, launches fireballs, but he has the move known as the Psycho Crusher, which is like if you've played the game before, it's usually when he flies across the screen, and then if you touch him, you get hit. But his Psycho Crusher in Alpha 3 is a full-blown, gigantic screen nuke. So basically, when he starts this move, if you didn't hold back, you're done. It's over. If you touch the button, you're done. You're gonna get hit by this, and it's gonna take like 3/4 of your life bar. You're dead if you get hit by this move. My God, was that annoying? Was that annoying for so many times? But M. Bison is to me seen as one of. I know I mentioned Shao Kahn in earlier episodes as one of my other big final bosses, but you could put M. Bison right there next to him as like the pinnacle of fighting game bosses, as like the villain of villains and um, some of the most powerful characters in video game history. And sometimes when I think of the word final boss, I think of M. Bison, like literally off the top of my head. Um, like he's another one of those, like I also mentioned before, like Bowser, where like when you think of Bowser, almost everyone knows who he is, and they think of him as like a boss character or something evil. But to me, like in the fighting game world, M. Bison is that type of character. So I wanted to pick the ultimate bad man for the bad guy for what we had with our Razor Ramon special today. But yeah, I select M. Bison. Did you play a lot of Street Fighter against M. Bison back then?
I hated M Bison as a kid because he would do like the move where he would like skid across the map or across the
Mm-hmm.
field with his
Mm-hmm.
feet and always knock me over. And for some reason, I could never think of just jumping or kicking him because he would. I always felt like his reaction time was so quick, and then he'd do like the the turbine, the twist through the middle of the air with.
That's the move I said, the Psycho Crusher.
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
would just nail me all the time, and I hated him. So I hated going through the arcade on the Super Nintendo, and him being the last boss and always decimating me. And I'm like, man, like,
He also
can I
had
go?
that nasty head stomp too. He had the nasty head stomp too.
Oh
Like he
yeah,
would do the
it's
head
like
stomp and then the fly, and then he would come at you with his hand in front too, like oh. And then his final his Street Fighter 2 theme was also good too. Do 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 do. Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 and there was like a big bell on the back of his Street Fighter 2 stage. It was Thailand, but it wasn't his hometown. Really wasn't Thailand. He just happens to be in Thailand. So um, yeah, M Bison can be a real jerk for a lot of the games. But you know what? I think that's what makes the final bosses more memorable when they're a real jerk.
yeah. But yeah,
Definitely sure.
that was our show. We wanted to pay our respects to Scott Hall. Our condolences go out to his family and friends that were close to him. Um, Always going to be a legend among the wrestling community. Always going to be one of the great ones. I think always, on many aspects in terms of
Mm-hmm.
best factions or best villains in wrestling or best intercontinental champions. He's always going to be mentioned on in
There
those
you go.
topics.
True
Uh,
that, man. True that.
Anything you want to say before we ring out this episode?
Nah, just again another great wrestler gone to the many to the ring in the sky, as many would say. He's joined by many others. Well, even the Doink the Clown that I said earlier, I believe he's also passed away as well. So yeah, there you go. They're probably having a face to face up there now, in the in the squared circle heaven up there. Um, but a lot of the times with these older wrestlers or anyone who's changed your history or changed the history of the company or the game or whatever it is, always take the time to remember what they have done and cherish those moments that you had as a kid, because I'm pretty sure, like, if something were to happen, heaven forbid, to any other wrestlers that we grew up with, they'll probably hit us just as hard or even harder because we grew up with them. So remember those times, cherish those times, and also he was very young when all this happened to him. Just gonna double check his age, 63, which it actually is young compared to what you would think someone would pass away. So I would definitely just say cherish your families, love your friends, and when you get to spend the time, because you never know for the future. You know what it holds. So uh, cherish. I'm just saying that, guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making it all the way here. We love hearing your guys' feedback. So let us know in the comment section or tweet at us. What's your favorite wrestling game or wrestling, wrestler?
There you go.
Overall,
What's
doesn't.
your
Yeah,
favorite wrestler?
it
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
and it doesn't
yeah.
have to be WWE, WWF, or anything like that. It just in
Whatever
general.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever it is, just let us know in the comments or tweet at us, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Boss Key Podcast. Thank you guys.
Peace out, guys.
Love
Have
you
a great
guys.
night, guys. Have a good one. Peace.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Boss Key Podcast with your hosts McQuack306 and
WG. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at BossKey_podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if you like, you can also follow us personally at McQuack306 and Jesse_Fregoso.
Join us next time for another episode of the Boss Key Podcast.